It's easy to blame corrupt leaders, to point at the frauds, the manipulators, the tyrants, and say they ruined everything. But the deeper truth, the one we don't like to admit, is that corrupt leaders don't rise alone. They are lifted, praised, defended, and followed by millions, by ordinary people. Not always because they're deceived, but because, at some level, they want to believe. And that, more than corruption itself, is the real tragedy. Why do people worship leaders who lie, steal, manipulate, and abuse? Why, even when the mask slips, do their followers double down, protect them, sanctify them? This isn't just about politics. It's about psychology. It's about the ancient hunger for certainty, identity, and salvation. People don't just want leaders. They want gods, something to worship, something to follow, something to explain the chaos of life and tell them who they are. A corrupt leader offers that, not through truth, but through illusion. They project strength. They speak in absolutes. They reduce the world to us versus them. They promise protection, purpose, revenge, and belonging, all wrapped in a single figure. And when people are afraid, confused, disoriented, that simplicity becomes irresistible. It's not that followers are blind. Often they see the flaws, but they overlook them, justify them, even embrace them. Because the leader fills a psychological void. He becomes a mirror for their rage, their powerlessness, their dreams. And once that bond forms, it's no longer about truth. It's about identity. Attacking the leader feels like an attack on who they are. So they defend him, worship him, need him. This dynamic has existed for centuries. In ancient times, kings were gods. Their power was sacred, their cruelty divine. People bowed not because the king was just, but because he symbolized order in a chaotic world. The same need exists today. We just don't wear crowns. We wear slogans. We don't kneel. We vote. We cheer. We post. But the psychology is the same. We are drawn to strength, even when it crushes us. Because it feels safer than uncertainty. A corrupt leader understands this. They don't lead by example. They lead by manipulation. They flatter the ego of the masses while feeding their own. They know how to weaponize fear. They create enemies to unite their followers. They offer belonging, but at a price, obedience, and many pay it willingly. Why? Because facing life without a hero is terrifying. Taking responsibility for your own meaning, your own morality, your own future, that's hard. It's easier to outsource all that to someone who promises to carry it for you. That's what the corrupt leader really sells. Relief. From thinking, from doubt, from freedom. The philosopher Erich Fromm called it escape from freedom. The idea that when freedom becomes too heavy, people run back to authority. They give up their voice for the comfort of being told what to believe. Corrupt leaders exploit this. They don't just take power, they offer emotional shelter. And people line up to enter. Nietzsche saw it too. He warned of the herd mentality, the instinct to follow, to conform, to worship anything that relieves us from the burden of being fully alive. The corrupt leader rises because the crowd demands him, not in name, but in need. He is the answer to their fear. And so long as fear rules, truth becomes irrelevant. This is the beginning of worship, not of a person, but of what that person represents. Control, simplicity, a story to live by, even if it's a lie. Once a corrupt leader has entered the psyche of the people, not just as a politician, but as a symbol, something strange begins to happen. Reality becomes negotiable. Evidence of lies, abuse, cruelty, or failure no longer matters. What matters is emotional loyalty, the feeling that this person stands for us, no matter what. And that feeling, once rooted, is more powerful than reason. This is where the worship deepens. The leader isn't just defended, they're mythologized. Their flaws are reframed as strength. Their lies become strategy. Their cruelty becomes toughness. The more they are attacked, the more followers feel justified in their devotion. Because now the story is not just, he is our leader, but they are against him, so we must protect him. The leader becomes a victim in the minds of those who follow him, even when he is the one doing harm. Carl Jung wrote about this process in his work on the archetype of the shadow, the part of the human psyche that holds all we reject, repress, or deny. Corrupt leaders rise when a society refuses to face its shadow. Instead of confronting its fear, resentment, and violence, the crowd projects it outward, and the leader channels it. He becomes the container for the darkness people won't own, and paradoxically, they love him for it. Because by following him, they feel strong, they feel seen, they feel justified. This is the psychological trap. The more corrupt the leader becomes, the more he proves his strength. His ability to lie without shame, to hurt without guilt, to speak with conviction even when wrong. These traits in a distorted moral framework are seen as power, as dominance, as proof that he's untouchable, and people worship what they think cannot be broken. But this devotion doesn't come from clarity. It comes from pain, from unmet needs, from disillusionment with systems that failed them. When people feel abandoned by institutions, by the economy, by justice, they look for someone who promises revenge, not reform, not healing, just someone who will punch back. The corrupt leader promises that. He says, I alone can fix it. He creates enemies and then offers protection from them. He doesn't unite through love. He unites through fear, through the illusion of strength. And the people follow, not because they're evil, but because they're desperate. They want meaning, purpose, power. And if it can't be found through truth, they'll settle for illusion. But illusions require constant maintenance, and that's why corrupt leaders attack dissent, why they control information, why they demonize critics, because they know the moment people wake up, the spell breaks, the story shatters, and once shattered, worship becomes disgust, loyalty becomes betrayal, faith becomes rage. The tragedy is that most people don't wake up because they see the truth. They wake up because they can no longer afford to deny it. When the promises fail, when the pain becomes personal, when the leader who claimed to protect them begins to take everything from them, then and only then, the crowd begins to retreat. Machiavelli knew this cycle. He wrote that rulers must appear virtuous, even when they are not, because appearances control perception. But he also warned, power built on deception is fragile. It lasts only as long as the illusion holds. Once people see behind the curtain, the fall is inevitable, and it's brutal. So what breaks the cycle? What ends the worship? It's not just facts, not arguments. It's awareness, the willingness to sit with discomfort, to ask hard questions, to confront your own complicity in giving power to someone who didn't deserve it. That takes courage, because it means facing your own shadow, the part of you that wanted to believe, that found comfort in obedience, that gave in to fear. But it also means reclaiming something, your voice, your vision, your agency. Real leaders don't demand worship. They don't rule through fear. They don't need to lie to inspire. They lead by presence, by clarity, by truth, even when it's difficult. The more we learn to recognize our hunger for heroes, the less we will settle for tyrants. The more we understand our own vulnerability to illusion, the more we can resist it. The leader is only ever a reflection of the crowd's state of mind. And when the crowd matures, so will its leadership. Worship ends when courage begins, when we stop needing saviors and start building truth.